Ashes of DEFIANC. The escape pod tumbled through the void, its single occupant staring with hollow eyes at the burning wreckage of Nexus 7 colony. Commander Maya Chen pressed her hand against the viewport, watching as the place she had called home for 5 years disintegrated into particles of light and debris. The harvester ships hung in orbit like obsidian monoliths, their hulls absorbing rather than reflecting starlight. Emergency protocols engaged. Stealth systems active, announced the pod's AI in a calm voice that felt obscenely inappropriate given the circumstances. Quantum signature dampened, detecting no pursuit vectors. Maya barely registered the words. 24 hours ago, she had been Chief Security Officer of humanity's most advanced research outpost. Now she was a refugee, possibly the only survivor of what had been home to 15,000 colonists. Her fingers tightened into a fist against the viewport as the memory of her husband Nolan's last transmission cut through her like a physical wound. They've breached the central lab, Maya. They knew exactly where to hit us. This wasn't random. They came for the Ascension Project. Static had consumed the rest. The pod shuddered as it engaged its emergency FTL drive, designed for a single short jump to the nearest safe harbor. Maya didn't care where it took her. What did it matter? She had failed to protect them. Failed to see the threat until alarms blared and the colony's shields collapsed like tissue paper under the harvester's precision strikes. Her hand moved to the pocket of her scorched uniform, fingers brushing against the small device she'd recovered during her desperate escape. The crystalline object pulsed with an inner light that seemed to respond to her touch. She had found it clutched in the hand of a dying harvester soldier after she'd emptied her pulse rifle into its chitinous exoskeleton. The dying alien had looked directly at her, its compound eyes reflecting Maya's shocked face. "The architects will not permit your evolution," it had gurgled before its light went out. The pod jolted as it exited FTL, the sudden deceleration throwing Maya against her restraints. Through the viewport, a sprawling space station came into view. Drifter's Haven, a notorious trading outpost on the edge of Alliance space, where questions weren't asked and credits spoke louder than loyalties. Arrival at emergency coordinates complete, the AI announced. Transmitting docking request under anonymous protocols. Maya clutched the alien artifact tighter. Someone had to know why the harvesters had come for Nexus 7. Someone had to pay. 3 days later, Maya sat in the darkest corner of the broken airlock, a dive bar infamous even by Drifter's Haven standards. Gone was her Alliance uniform, replaced with nondescript civilian clothes stolen from an unattended cargo bay. Her military neural implant had been deactivated to avoid detection, leaving a persistent headache throbbing behind her eyes. "You're drinking like someone with ghosts, Commander Chen." A man slid into the seat across from her, his face partially hidden beneath a worn synth leather hood. Maya's hand moved to the stolen blaster concealed under the table. "You have me confused with someone else," she said, finger resting on the trigger. The stranger smiled without humor. "The Alliance has already declared everyone at Nexus 7 dead. The official report cites a catastrophic containment failure in the quantum research facility." He leaned forward. "But we both know that's not what happened." "Who are you?" "Name's Cade. I pilot the Midnight Runner, and I represent people who know exactly why the harvesters targeted your colony." He slid a data chip across the table. "These are coordinates. Be there in 6 hours if you want answers." He rose to leave, then paused. "And Commander, that artifact you took from the harvester soldier, bring it." The coordinates led Maya to an abandoned maintenance bay on the station's lower levels. As she approached, her tactical training screamed trap. But if this Cade knew about the artifact, he might have answers. And answers were the first step toward vengeance. Inside, she found not just Cade, but a diverse group of individuals, humans and non-humans alike. They called themselves Ember, a resistance network that had been tracking the harvesters for years. The attack on Nexus 7 wasn't random, explained a woman named Sora, activating a holographic display showing multiple human outposts that had been attacked over the past decade. Her dark skin contrasted with the silver neural enhancements tracing her jawline. The harvesters are systematically targeting human quantum research facilities. Why? Maya demanded. A reptilian alien stepped forward, introducing himself as T-Vex, a defector from a species long subjugated by the harvesters. Because they fear you, or rather, what humanity might become. Maya learned that her husband's research team had been on the verge of a breakthrough, a new form of quantum communication that would revolutionize interstellar travel and potentially allow humanity to access higher dimensions of reality. The harvesters serve entities they call the architects. T-Vex explained, his forked tongue flickering between sharp teeth. Ancient beings who believe they alone should determine which species ascend to higher understanding. And that artifact, Sora pointed to the crystal device Maya had recovered, is a harvester command key capable of accessing their secure networks. With it, we could potentially track their movements, maybe even predict their next target. For the first time since the attack, a flicker of purpose ignited within Maya. I don't care about predictions. I want to hit them back. That's suicide, said Cade, crossing his arms. The harvester fleet is the most powerful in the quadrant. Then we don't target their fleet, Maya replied, her military mind already formulating a strategy. We target their intelligence network, cut off their information, and even the strongest enemy becomes vulnerable. Over the next weeks, Maya and Ember worked to decrypt the command key. Each night she was haunted by dreams of Nolan, sometimes alive and begging her to find him, other times simply staring at her with accusing eyes. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. While experimenting with the device, Maya accidentally exposed it to a quantum resonator. The crystal responded, projecting a holographic star map showing harvester outposts, including one just 2 systems away. That's a communication relay, T-Vex identified, his scaled finger tracing the projection. It coordinates harvester fleet movements across this entire sector. Maya studied the projection. How well is it defended? Minimally, Sora replied. The harvesters rely on secrecy, not firepower, for facilities like these. Then that's our target, Maya declared. We take it out, and we send a message. The hunted are now the hunters. Planning the operation consumed Maya. She pored over tactical simulations, equipment specifications, and the limited intelligence they had on harvester security protocols. Ember, impressed by her strategic mind, gradually accepted her leadership. On the eve of the mission, Cade found Maya alone in the Midnight Runner's observation deck, staring at the stars. You should rest, he said, offering her a steaming cup of synthetic coffee. Every time I close my eyes, I see him, she replied quietly. My husband. The colony burning. Revenge won't bring them back. Maya turned to him, her eyes reflecting the starlight. This isn't just about revenge. The harvesters won't stop with Nexus 7. They'll keep destroying human outposts, eliminating any threat to their architect's vision of the universe. Her fingers tightened around the cup. After tomorrow, if we succeed, we find their next target before they strike. We warn our people. She looked down at her hands, which had once been used to protect, now transformed into instruments of retribution. Then we burn their world like they burned mine. As the infiltration team prepared to depart, a coded transmission reached their hideout. It contained only a brief message and a set of biometric data. Survivors from Nexus 7 held at Harvester Research Facility. Nolan Chen among them. Maya stared at the name, her heart hammering against her ribs. It couldn't be. She had seen the research complex explode, but the attached DNA signature was unmistakable. It could be a trap, Sora warned. Or it could be true, Maya countered, a dangerous hope kindling within her. She turned to the assembled team, her resolve hardening. Our mission just changed. We're not just taking out a communications relay anymore. What are we doing? Asked T-Vex. Maya's eyes burned with a fire that made even the veteran fighters step back. "We're going to make the harvesters regret the day they took everything from me." The Midnight Runner silently detached from Drifter's Haven, its course set for the Harvester outpost. Inside, Maya clutched a pendant containing a holo image of her and Nolan on their wedding day. "I'm coming for you," she whispered, "and heaven help anyone who stands in my way." Fieries of rebellion. The Midnight Runner drifted silently through the debris field surrounding the Harvester communication relay. From the outside, the station resembled a massive black thorn, all jagged angles and sharp protrusions that seemed to drink in the light from the nearby binary stars. Approaching insertion point, Cade whispered from the pilot's seat, his fingers dancing across the manual controls. "Automated defenses haven't detected us yet." Maya checked her tactical display. The plan was simple. Cade would hold position in the debris field while she led a small team. Sora, T-Vex, and a former Alliance Marine named Garrett, to infiltrate the relay, extract any intelligence, plant demolition charges, and escape before the Harvesters knew what hit them. But the transmission about survivors from Nexus 7 had changed everything. If Nolan was alive, "Remember the mission parameters," Maya told her team as they gathered in the airlock. "We have 30 minutes to reach the central processor, download the network data, plant the charges, and extract. Anything beyond that window, and Cade leads without us." "And if we find evidence of the prisoners?" Garrett asked, his scared face betraying his doubt. "Then we adapt," Maya replied, securing her helmet. "But the mission comes first. The data in that relay could save millions of lives." The team launched from the Midnight Runner using short-range thruster packs, crossing the vacuum to a maintenance airlock T-Vex had identified from stolen schematics. The alien's knowledge of harvester systems proved invaluable as he bypassed the security protocols, granting them silent entry. "We're in," Maya confirmed through the encrypted comm. "Radio silence until extraction." The interior of the relay was unlike any human or Alliance structure. The corridors twisted at unnatural angles, lined with pulsing organic-looking material that seemed almost alive. The air inside was breathable, but carried a metallic tang that leaked through their suit filters. "Atmospheric composition is within human tolerance," Sora reported, checking her scanner. "But I'm detecting unusual particle readings consistent with quantum entanglement experiments." Maya's grip tightened on her pulse rifle. Quantum entanglement was exactly what Nolan had been researching. They moved deeper into the station, avoiding the few harvester drones patrolling the corridors. Unlike the warrior caste they'd encountered during the Nexus 7 attack, these were smaller, more specialized units, their chitinous exoskeletons housing various sensory appendages instead of weapons. T-Vex led them to a junction where the corridor split in 3 directions. "The central processor should be to the left," he whispered. "But I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from the right path." "What kind of signatures?" Maya asked. "Similar to the stasis fields used for biological storage." Maya's heart lurched. Biological storage. Prisoners. Nolan. "Stick to the plan," she ordered, despite every instinct screaming at her to investigate. "Sora and T-Vex, proceed to the central processor. Download everything you can about their fleet movements and future targets. Garrett and I will plant charges along the structural supports." "Commander," Sora began, her eyes reflecting concern behind her visor. "The mission comes first," Maya repeated, as much to herself as to her team. "Go." As Sora and T-Vex disappeared down the left corridor, Maya and Garrett began placing demolition charges at key structural points. Working methodically, they were nearly finished when Maya's comm crackled to life. "Commander," Sora's voice was tight with urgency, "we've accessed the central processor. You need to see this. Now." Status of the download. "In progress. 70% complete." "But Maya," Sora rarely used her first name, "they have humans here. Dozens of them. In stasis." Maya exchanged glances with Garrett, survivors from Nexus 7. Some, but others from previous attacks. They're being experimented on. The Harvesters are studying quantum manipulation of human consciousness. Nolan's research, they had taken him to continue his work. Garrett, finish placing the charges, Maya ordered. I'm heading to the processor. She sprinted through the twisting corridors, following the nav marker on her HUD. When she reached the central processor, she found Sora and T-Vex staring at a massive holographic display filled with images that turned her blood to ice. Humans suspended in translucent pods, their bodies connected to Harvester technology through invasive interfaces. Some appeared comatose, others awake and clearly in agony. And there, in a highlighted section marked with alien symbols, was Nolan. He's alive, Maya whispered, reaching toward the image. Where are they keeping them? Section Delta 9. T-Vex replied, indicating a location several levels below. But Commander, there's more. The Harvesters aren't killing these humans. They're trying to extract something from them. Something called the Ascension Catalyst. The research Nolan was conducting, Maya realized. The architects believe humans have an innate ability to access higher dimensions. They're not trying to stop our evolution. They're trying to harvest it. A sudden alarm blared through the station, the organic walls pulsing red. We've been detected, Sora announced, grabbing her weapon. Download at 95%. Garrett, status on the charges. Maya barked into her comm. All set, Commander, came the reply, punctuated by the sound of weapons fire. But we got company. Lots of it. Complete the download, Maya ordered Sora. T-Vex, can you access the stasis controls from here? Release the prisoners. The reptilian's claws flew across the alien interface. Possibly, but it would trigger every security protocol in the station. Maya made her decision. Do it. Sora, as soon as that download completes, send a priority transmission to Cade. Tell him to prepare for emergency extraction with additional passengers. Maya. Sora grabbed her arm. What are you doing? Changing the mission, she replied, checking her weapon. I'm going to get Nolan and the others. You two get that data back to the ship. Before Sora could argue, Maya was already moving, racing toward the lower levels where the prisoners were kept. Behind her, alarms continued to wail as T-Vex triggered the stasis release protocols. The corridors were chaos as she descended, Harvester drones converging from all directions. She fought her way through, each pull of the trigger fueled by months of suppressed rage. This was what she had trained for. This was why she had survived when others hadn't. She reached Delta 9 to find the stasis pods already cycling open, disoriented humans stumbling out. Most were emaciated, their bodies marked with scars from Harvester procedures. Maya scanned the faces frantically until Nolan. He turned toward her voice, his once vibrant face gaunt and pale, eyes sunken from whatever tortures the Harvesters had inflicted. But alive. Maya. His voice was barely a whisper. Is it really you? She crossed the room in 3 strides, supporting him as his weakened legs gave way. I'm here. I found you. You shouldn't have come, he rasped, clutching at her armor. You don't understand what they're doing. What they made me do. Later, she promised, activating her comm. Garrett, I've found the prisoners. We need an extraction route to the maintenance airlock. Slight problem with that, Commander, Garrett replied, the sound of heavy weapons fire in the background. Primary route is overrun. You'll need to use the secondary maintenance shafts. Sending coordinates now. Maya turned to the other freed prisoners. Listen up. If you want to live, stay close and follow my lead. We're getting off this station. Leading 20 weakened prisoners through hostile territory wasn't in any Alliance tactical manual. Maya took point, with Nolan helping organize the others despite his condition. They navigated through narrow maintenance shafts, avoiding the main corridors where Harvester forces were converging. 5 minutes to detonation. Garrett's voice came through the comm. Sora and T-Vex have reached the ship with the data. Where are you? 2 levels from extraction, Maya replied, helping an elderly scientist over a fallen conduit. We'll make it. They emerged into a wide chamber that had to be crossed to reach the airlock, and found themselves face to face with a Harvester command unit, flanked by combat drones. Unlike the soldier she had killed on Nexus 7, this one stood nearly 3 meters tall, its exoskeleton reinforced with metallic implants. The architects have foreseen this moment, Commander Chen. It spoke, its voice a synthetic approximation of human speech. Your resistance is a necessary component of the ascension equation. Maya pushed Nolan behind her, raising her rifle. Tell your architects they miscalculated. The Harvester tilted its massive head. Did they? You have done exactly as predicted. Gathered the subjects. Secured the data. Demonstrated the very evolutionary potential the architects wished to harness. Maya. Nolan's voice was urgent in her ear. The artifact. Use it. The crystalline device. She had almost forgotten it was still in her pocket. The command key isn't just for accessing their networks, Nolan continued. It's a quantum entanglement device. It can disrupt their neural connection to the architects. Maya reached for the artifact, its surface pulsing brighter at her touch. The Harvester commander took a step back, its compound eyes fixed on the device. Impossible. You cannot comprehend. Maya activated the artifact, remembering how it had responded to the quantum resonator. A pulse of energy exploded outward, washing over the Harvesters. The commander shrieked, a sound like tearing metal, as its neural implants overloaded. The combat drones collapsed, their connections severed. Now, Maya shouted, leading the prisoners past the disabled Harvesters toward the airlock. Garrett, we're coming in hot. They'd reached the extraction point with seconds to spare. The Midnight Runner hovered just outside, its airlock extended. Cade's voice came through the comm, tense but controlled. I count 22 life signs. That's going to be a tight fit, Commander. Make it work, Maya replied, helping the prisoners across the gap. Nolan was the last before her, his eyes meeting hers as she handed him over to Garrett. You came back for me, he said, disbelief and love mingling in his exhausted face. Always, she promised, preparing to make the jump herself. The station rocked as the first demolition charge detonated, sending Maya stumbling. She regained her footing and leaped across the void, Garrett's hand catching her arm and pulling her aboard just as the airlock sealed. Go, she shouted, and the Midnight Runner accelerated away from the disintegrating relay, the shockwave from the explosion propelling them faster into open space. In the crowded cargo bay, Maya finally allowed herself to embrace Nolan properly, holding him as if she might lose him again at any moment. It's over, she whispered. He pulled back, his eyes haunted. No, Maya. It's only beginning. What I learned while they held me. The architects aren't just targeting humanity. They've been manipulating species across the galaxy for millennia, harvesting evolutionary potential to fuel their own ascension. Sora approached, her expression grim. The data we recovered confirms it. This goes beyond just human colonies. Dozens of species have been targeted. Then we fight back, Maya said simply, not just for humanity, but for all of them. Nolan nodded, some of his old determination returning to his face. The artifact you used, there are others. Together, they form a network that could disrupt the architect's control completely. You're talking about a galaxy-wide resistance, Cade said from the doorway, arms crossed. Maya looked around at the faces of the survivors, at her team, at her husband, alive against all odds. The fire of vengeance that had driven her now transformed into something greater, purpose. I'm talking about evolution, she replied. The architects wanted to control it. Instead, they've accelerated it by bringing us all together. She moved to the ship's viewport, watching as the Harvester station collapsed into a singularity behind them, a fitting symbol for the old order giving way to the new. The stars beyond seemed brighter somehow, full of possibility. They left us with nothing, Maya said, her voice carrying through the silent ship. Now we'll take everything from them. The Midnight Runner engaged its FTL drive, disappearing into the depths of space, carrying with it the seeds of rebellion that would soon consume the galaxy.